Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Patricia Monna Intuitive Consulting. Today I have an amazing guest, Kristen Griffiths. Thank you so much for joining me today. She is the host of the spiritually based podcast, Clarity to Consciousness. And I have to say, because you just opened up this podcast, and I had the honor of being the first guest on your podcast. So thank you so much, Kristen, for joining me on mine.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, the honor is all mine. This is such a treat to be here and to be able to speak on your platform. I'm so honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to ask you, so why did you, because we all stand up and start our voices on YouTube, and for me it was on Facebook. I did a few things on Facebook and then went, okay, I'll go over to YouTube because I had a lot to say that needed to get out. And we all start our podcasts for different reasons. I got to ask you, why did you start yours?
Thank you for asking. Well, I guess the short answer is the nagging of this need to do something was nagging me so much that it outgrew my fear of doing it.
Nice.
But really, it all started, if you don't mind, I can give a little background on me and my story. Um, I was always somebody who was probably, I would say, interested in spirituality, although I wouldn't call myself somebody who has a gift per se. And I don't mean to put myself down. I just kind of consider myself a regular person. But I will say, looking back, there were signs. Like I was just always interested in the spirituality, and when I compare myself to others, my interest was probably more significant than a lot of other people's. And I think where it really took off was when my grandfather died, probably way back in I think it was like 2010. And I really searched for how to handle the loss of somebody. And he was somebody who was like a father to me. We were very close, and he helped raise my brother and I. And I struggled with not having him around anymore. And I wanted to know what happened afterwards. And so I started to pick up books by Sylvia Browne. I think at the time she was big, and I didn't know anybody else to go to. And my mom helped me a lot with that. And my search continued for what happens after we die. And it was sort of like a hobby on the side. And then what really kickstarted my growth spiritually was in 2016, my son was born. And I think what we talked a little bit about this when you came on to my podcast too, but what I think happened then was a spiritual awakening. And it wasn't pretty. I had such a huge life change. I was not expecting a child to change my life so much. I wasn't getting any sleep. I was a mess, and I was really going through a lot of depression. And when you're going through depression as a new mom, it almost feels wrong. It's like, oh, you have this beautiful baby. You should be so grateful. And I really struggled with how to keep it together. And I was really struggling with anxiety too. And it really threw me for a loop. And it also created a deterioration in my marriage as well. And so there was so many things going on that I was dealing with all at once. A friend of mine sent me a recording of Stuart Wilde, 33 Steps to Your Infinite Self. And it was really the first time I had heard anything like that. And it really changed the way I looked at the world. And ever since, I've just been on this insatiable spiritual quest to learn more and grow more. And COVID really fast forwarded a lot of that work for us as well. And now, years later, I'm taking what I've learned and I'm trying to figure out, been trying to figure out for a while how to serve others, because if we're growing as a society and increasing our vibration and there's this idea of, a great awakening happening. How can I be a part of that? How can I serve? And I took a untraditional path or non-traditional path in my healing journey, which was to work with a coach who is very spiritual. And I also worked with coaches who are mediums too. And through a lot of the YouTube videos that I watched, that's how I found you, was through Jason Chirka's channels, and I learned about you, and all of these lessons and learnings really spoke to me so much, and I really wanted to share my learnings with others as a way of giving back. So this is a long way of saying this is how I ended up here today. So my idea to give back was to take what I've learned and share it with those who are open to it. The last thing I want to say in this long-winded speech is that I'm somebody who I feel like I have a foot in both worlds, the spiritual world and also very 3D world. I work in the medical space. A lot of the people I work with, they won't talk to you unless it's been peer reviewed, fact checked, legally reviewed, regulatory reviewed, medically reviewed, and it needs to be proven. And that's not really the space of spirituality, but there's truly something to be learned. And I want to share those messages with people who are opening to listen to them. And that's why I started the Clarity to Consciousness podcast, because I wanted to share the messages that you have, that others have, that I've gotten so much value out of. I want to share them with others.
That's amazing. And first off, I have to say I'm so sorry for your loss, the loss of your grandfather. Um, it's really interesting what death and grief does. It is the biggest um, spiritual opener because it makes us seek, right? It makes us go, why are we here? Where do we go? What is this all about? And I truly believe that it was my father's death that busted me wide open and actually even gave me the permission to step out of the Christian paradigm because I was brought up a born again Christian my whole life, praying on my knees, going to church on Sunday, going to Christian camp in the summers, and I'm very grateful for what I know. But at the same time, by I lost my parents back to back. It gave me finally the freedom to be able to go, okay, who am I? What do I believe? What do I believe? Because it's been other people's paradigms and not even experiences. Because if you think about it, like my parents would lived and died off the King James version of the Bible. And if you think about that book, that is a book written on someone else's experiences, someone else's prophecies, someone else's paradigms. And my parents lived and died off of that as if it was the living word. And I do believe there's definitely, I'm getting off topic here, but sacred energy with the Bible. I absolutely believe in it. But at the same time, I also believe that we are here to experience the miraculous through ourselves as well. And we are all capable of this. It's the connection that we have, it's the faith that we embody that creates that connection, right? So by you even expressing interest in spirituality, even angels, you start throwing your consciousness towards angels, guess what you're going to bump into, right? Because not only are we manifesting it, but how we manifest is we're connecting with it. We're connecting with the energy of it, which sends out a signal to our angels to go, oh, it's time for us to kick in and show up and show ourselves to this person, right? So just you being open, you watch the experiences that you'll bring to you and that will happen. And I truly believe that the only difference between a skeptic and a believer is that experience. I also come from that medical background, and yeah, it has to be, the science, but honestly, where has the science gotten us over the last 4 years? In
It
a lot
changes
of
all the
trouble.
time.
In a lot of trouble.
Yes.
There's a lot of turbo cancers and clots and heart attacks, and all of that that's happening out there right now. And that's where people trust in the science. So this is where we have to use our discernment. And I think that's what is so off with society is our spiritual discernment. You know, call it spiritual discernment or not. Discernment in general, it's off as a human species. I think that we're so used to believing what we're told, like my parents believing what we're told, right? But my long-winded thing was, you know, by losing them, as grief-stricken as it was for me, it opened me up and gave me the permission to start really examining, what do I believe? Where do I stand, you know, within my own connections? So it's neat how we all get here, but death was the one for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really gives you the permission, like you said, and also the reason to search for more. I think it's hard to be okay with not seeing it someone ever again. And so you want to know, where are they going? What's happening to them? And that's what gave me this insatiable thirst to learn more. And as I uncovered, and I think it's just everything about it, everything you learn when you listen to near-death experiences, and from there, just all these aspects of spirituality. It's freaking fascinating. At least it is for me. I don't know how other people just don't find it to be so fascinating. I learned so much and have so many ahas, and my eyes are open every day listening to people, especially people like you. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just
yeah.
I try to speak my truth and you know, answer what I can. Um, because I think it, you know, by sharing experiences, it people understand, oh, they're not going crazy if they've had an outer body experience. If all of a sudden, you know, they find themselves looking down on their body, they're not the only ones who did it, right? And there's ways to be able to do it. But, you know, the first time this stuff can kind of happen to you, you can feel like you're going crazy. So I think it is important to be able to share our message with people and let them know, hey, there's a whole other world out there that we have not been told about, you know, and it is through our own experiences, and it's what we focus on is what's going to expand. So the more you even focus on your spirituality, guess what's going to open up to you? That whole realm. And you'll end up meeting your vibe tribe as well when you start to get into the flow of that energy, right? Everything changes. And you're the people that are even working with you that you wouldn't think would listen to the podcast, or you know, you wouldn't think you could have that enlightening conversation with, all of a sudden they're opening up and explaining their version of what's happened to them. So it's interesting who listens, and you don't know, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Another unexpected result from starting this was a lot of it fast forwarded my own growth,
Mm,
and definitely brought to light, maybe in probably an expedited fashion, some of my insecurities. My first episode, someone reached out to me and said, had some negative things to say about like my logo, and
no.
who I, like the things I'm talking about and that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, it's a
That the one
reflection.
with me and you? Was that the one with
Well, well, it was the logo, and he's a negative comment about mediums feeling like they're not real. And it was interesting to see, because
yeah,
your fears are, sometimes come out and are reflected in your surroundings, right? It's those mirrors.
yeah,
And so it's like, okay, here we go. This is it. It's being in the public eye sort of fast tracks some of that work that you need to do with yourself. And um, I sat with it for a little bit. I realized that this is a reflection of something I had to resolve. And I very politely responded, and essentially it was like, thank you. I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna move
yeah,
forward now,
yeah.
but I appreciate your feedback. And so it was interesting to see that, and also this idea of sharing my own voice. It's always something I've struggled with. And after doing some work on a couple episodes, and I actually spoke at a conference, the South by Southwest conference a couple weeks ago, I came down with strep throat.
Oh,
And I thought,
wow.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That I have an infection of my throat chakra, in my throat chakra, when I'm using my voice more than I ever had before. It just kind of makes you think, like, what's the coincidence there? There's got to be some
So
sort of coincidence.
it's your body telling you exactly what you need to work on. And,
Hmm.
I gotta say, I used to be so nervous telling people what I did, and I was selective. And, I'd just say I'm a nurse, and then when I left nursing, no, I'm a retired nurse. But then it was like, screw it. I'm doing, I know I'm doing God's work. I see it every day. I see it every day with the stuff that I say to people and how it changes their lives and the difference that it makes. And I see it. Like, I actually see this stuff. People are like a book to me. And I'm like pulling your book off the shelf life, and I'm just going through it. And it plays out like a movie in my head. And it's literal. Like, if you had, I don't know, a black leather couch and a glass coffee table with something on it when you were growing up, and a family picture above it, I could describe it, like the inside of people's living rooms and things that only professional remote viewers can actually do, right? And then on top of that, the 35 missing people, the 35 missing people I found. 35,
Yeah,
35.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
one or two, not three or four, not even 10.
No,
35.
no,
Like,
and
I stop and my left brain stops and I think about that sometimes. And I think, what if I said no? What if I wasn't going to do it anymore? Because I remember, I think I was at number 7 or something when I hit a really nasty cop, really mean cop that just tore me down. And like, I'm just trying to help. Like, people got
yeah,
to realize I do that for free. I have
yeah,
never, ever, ever charged a cent to work on a missing person case, anything like that. That's just bad, bad juju as far as I'm concerned. No one saves up for their loved one to go missing. That's just bad. So I help when I can, right? And I came across this really mean cop that just left me feeling raw. And I swore I was never going to do another
mm,
missing person case. And I did. I took off like a good 8 months, I think,
wow,
and didn't do any. But thank God I went back. Thank God I decided, no, 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 this is something, because I know I can actually see it, right? Like, I'm not the type of person to lie. I would make the crappiest liar in the world because my memory is terrible. So I don't even bother trying, right? So to me, it's no, I can actually do this. Like,
yeah,
so why not? Right. But putting, and I put my money where my mouth is, because there is a lot of shady people out there. And that guy has every right to say that I don't believe in mediums. Maybe he's had that experience. So in his reality, in his world, mediums are all crooks. But there are
yeah.
some that aren't. There are some that are legit and can actually do this stuff. Weird connection. I don't know. I don't know why I can do this. I don't know why y'all can't. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why y'all can't. Honest to God.
Yeah.
That's my reality. Well, what's wrong with you that you can't see this? Honestly, because it's easier than people think. It's just, I've been now doing it since
Mm,
2011. So I can see it. Like, it's easy for me, right? Like, is my
yeah.
job. I can do it like this. But if people started and then spent the next 13 years practicing it, you'd be just as good as I am. Honest to God.
Right.
Right? Everybody has this ability. It's just we've forgotten who we are at the core of our being. So maybe that guy did have a really bad experience. So kudos to him for speaking his truth, you know.
Yeah.
But to me, I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. I found too much. I've done too much. Like, probably one of the most coolest statistical things that are probably 1 in 10 billion of me hitting was one of my clients winning the lottery. I literally predicted I literally predicted the day that she was going to win the lottery, but I predicted the 2 days. And I read for her in like March of that year.
Oh
And
my
I told
gosh.
her, I said, November 27th, you're going to buy the ticket. December 2nd, you're going to find out you won. And she won 7 million bucks.
Oh wow. But
Tell
but
me.
just to be clear, you didn't tell her the numbers, right?
No, 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 no. I just saw her buying the ticket. I'm a remote
Yeah.
viewer,
Yes.
so I'll see what's going down in that time.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
immediately felt the energy of her winning and 7 million
So cool.
bucks. And so that testimonial is on my website. So that guy, it's I feel sorry for him because there's no magic in his world. Because
Yeah.
if he did realize that this stuff was real, if he actually gave it a chance himself, I'm not out to perform for people. Let me show you how to bring this into your world, right? That's
Right.
the best teacher. I don't need to make myself look like the only person who can do that. That's BS. All of us can do this. All of us have this God connection. It's just learning how to listen.
I love the analogy. It's like it's like anybody can pick up and play the guitar, right? Some people pick it up and they're just naturally talented at it. Some people need to work at it a little bit, but everybody can do it. I heard that analogy once and I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense."
It's true. Honest to God. So, like I said, it's just sad for him because he doesn't see the magic in his own world then.
Yeah.
If he's got no connection there.
But maybe he's changed his tune because I assume that you found that person and maybe he's realized that he should be a little bit more open to it.
I don't know. No, he didn't write anything on my page.
Yeah.
But I don't
Hmm.
so
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's the family, the person. I think those are the people who probably mean the most in that situation.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've helped me out a lot too. And 2 years ago, I had a reading with you. You did predict correctly a couple things so far in my life, and there's still more to come that hasn't happened yet. And one was the month of my separation
Oh wow.
and the month of my divorce.
Wow.
Yep. You predicted that correctly for me.
Yes, I can feel it on the calendar. Sometimes I can feel it by seasons, sometimes by years, but sometimes like right down to the day of
Mhm.
when things are going to happen. And it's pre-written, so don't ever feel bad or look back because it's pre-written, right? You wrote your next chapter that's coming up. So
Yeah.
it'll be a good one.
Yeah. Yes. So, if we wanted to change topics on the podcast, I would love to just talk a little bit about the content if everybody is open to hearing it, because it's so important, I think, to get the the messages out there that people so need to hear. And I think the people that are listening, hopefully, this is, not necessarily today, but the people that listen to the podcast are people who haven't heard these messages before. And I hope that it serves them in the way it served me, because it saved me in so many ways. It really did. And it wasn't just one message, it was the collection of all of them from all of the beautiful teachers out there who have an amazing voice. And my goal is just to share it with the world as best I can using the skill sets that I have. So maybe I don't have the skill sets of being a medium, but I have the skill sets of connecting and sharing with my communication skills, and that's what I hope to bring to humanity.
So amazing. And you know what? You just triggered a memory for me. When I was
Yeah.
growing, because I used to have like the worst panic attacks and severe depression after my dad was killed. I'd wake up, and when you open your eyes and you're like, oh, I feel like crap, but why do I feel like crap? You forget for just that split second. And then you wake up and you go, oh my God, the reality I'm living in, right? It would take me till noon to come back down from one of those attacks. I would
Wow.
listen. I started listening. What cured me was actually podcasts. I forgot about that. I used to turn on Wayne Dyer and Neil Donald Walsh and listen to them because they just made so much sense. So yeah, it is super, super important that we share our messages. This is so awesome that you started your podcast. That is amazing that you're out there and you're doing it. Good job.
Thank you. It's sort of um like some days I think to myself, like, am I crazy? Why am I doing this? Like, what is driving me to do this? Because if you look at it on paper, it doesn't really make much sense. Like, I have a full-time job and I'm a single mom. And I am squeezing every bit of free time I possibly have to put into it. And also it's all self-funded too. And not that it's a lot of money to put a podcast on, but you still have, editing and that kind of thing if you want it to sound of quality.
Hmm.
And so there is definitely some effort. And it's like, you know, uh, if on paper it doesn't really make a lot of sense why you would just not spend that time relaxing or doing something else. But it's just there was just something inside of me that was pushing me to do it, and it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But the nagging, well, nagging's not a negative word. I don't want to say it was a nagging. The constant voice, I guess it was intuition. So there is a skill that I've grown in these last few years of listening to that intuition, but something was pushing me to do it. And I've learned over the last few years to listen to that and how to tell when I should trust it and follow through. And it's served me well. It's the impatience that I struggle with, because now it's like, well, it's launched. Why is it an instant success? Why, like, I know it's going to take some time.
Well, my son actually just started a podcast too, but you don't see him on it. It's called Story Unwind. So I'm gonna give Tino a little pump out there too. Story Unwind. He does
Love it.
ghost stories, real life like ghost stories, people's testimonials, and yeah, he's loved all that ever since he was a kid. He's loved, loved, loved ghost stories, and it's like, yeah, he's my boy. I could see myself in all my kids. But yeah, so now he took voice acting school. And so this is his way of, getting his voice out there and practicing as well. So yeah, so Story Unwind. That's my son's
That's
channel. So it's a
that's
good
really
thing we're all
cool.
doing it.
We're all doing it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. We should do a podcast swap with
Oh my
he and
God.
I together. I would love that.
You totally should. I don't, mind you, I've asked Tino to come onto my YouTube channel, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to be seen," and so that's why he took voiceover. But
Mm.
I think with a little cohesion, I can just, get him in there and start talking about it. Because hey, if he wants to get his voice out there, why not, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd be happy to have him on. I
Aw.
think I think he could talk about all of his learnings from all the ghost stories that he's heard, and what he's
Well,
what
and he's had some himself. We lived in quite the house before this one, before we got out of there. Yeah, right quick. I didn't realize it when I bought it. I wasn't even in. I was a nurse. I was still nursing. I wasn't in. I was always into this stuff, but I wasn't like doing readings or, I actually didn't realize that people couldn't see this stuff for the longest time, right? Because to me, it's like this is part of my reality, so you don't know that anything is different. But yeah, we lived in
Mhm.
a haunted house to
Wow.
tell some true stories of what happened in that house. Yeah.
Wow. I would love to hear more. That sounds fascinating and also scary.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little freaky. That's why we sold it. And I tried doing this. I space cleared the crap out of it before we left, and then I went, okay, good luck, good luck. So, yeah.
Do you think it worked? Do you think they left?
No, I don't think so. So, and it wasn't me that put that energy in there. It had to have had a vortex or something because it's
Mm.
crazy. Like my husband and I have been together 30 years. He's my everything. He's my rock. And there was 8 couples that were on the block, and we would all hang out together, travel together, best friends, kids played together, all of that. By the time, so we moved out of there, and the market was low, so we didn't sell it, we rented it. And ironic, and I knew the house was haunted because we had had our own experiences in there. I'm like, we need to get out of here. It got so bad that I said to my husband, I said, if we don't leave, I'm leaving, and I'm leaving with the kids. You can stay here, but I'm out. And
Yeah.
so we did. And what was interesting is that the couple and the 2 kids that moved in, these were the people that in Lake Chaparral had, in our community, had the biggest haunted house. And that was one of their conditions on moving in, was they wanted to still continue to have a big haunted house in the front of the house, or yeah, in the
Oh,
front of the house. And anyways, they came with glowing recommendations, and everybody loved the haunted house. It would always make the news every year. Like, it was big, where like there'd be lineups down the street to come and see the house. And so they did that at our house when it was a rental. And they were into all this stuff. They loved that they were in a haunted house. They loved it. They knew that there was something there, but they embraced it. Like, I'm sure they did Ouija boards and whatever the heck they did. They were all about that stuff. And anyways, at the end of it, when they moved out, of course the house was trashed.
no.
And the yeah, it yeah, I shouldn't say anymore, but there, because there's a, well, I'm sure people are gonna be curious, so I'm just gonna say it. They had split up, so had a whole pile of the neighbors had split up, and that's that kind of energy that messes. It'll
Wow.
mess with your marriage, it'll mess with everything. So I personally think there was a vortex or something on that block. And when so they ended up splitting up. He moved out and he killed himself. So
Oh
yeah,
my gosh. Do you think something attached itself to him?
yeah. But they invited it. They were all about it. They were all about it.
Wow.
Like
Oh,
both of them, literally, I'm not kidding you, had tattoos all over them of like Chucky dolls and
wow.
every horror movie. They were big time into horror movies. Like, they had this stuff all over the house. And I told my husband, I said, I'm never going setting foot in that house ever again. Like, I can't believe that you allowed that. But it was like the house called to them. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? It's like literally like the house called to them. And I couldn't wait to get out of there. It never felt like home. It never felt right to me. And even our marriage, we started arguing, and that's why I was like, friends, we need to get out of here before this does something to us, right? And we did. We got out of there, and we've always been like this. So that's why when I recognized that there was tension between us, oh no, no, not today, Satan, you ain't getting us. So we got out of there. So Tino's got his own stories. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I can't wait to talk to him. That's very interesting. Wow. And wow, that's some story.
it's creepy. But yeah, this stuff is very, very real. But again, it's only real to the people that experience it, right? And so to someone who has never had an experience with it, they'd be like, oh, it was nothing. Oh, it's
Yeah.
in your head. No, what we experienced, it wasn't in our head.
Hmm. Yeah, I wish we could break down some of those stigmas because you do feel for the people. They go from non-believers to experiencers, and then they're afraid to speak their truth. And I think it becomes really challenging for people like that. And if we could all just be a little bit more warm and welcoming to those who go through that and not immediately assume that they're crazy or lying or scamming, I think
Absolutely.
I think,
Well,
I
that's
think
why
we'd
I love
be a
that you're
place.
doing your podcast. I love that you're doing your podcast. Because you never know what's going to come out. Like, I even at the beginning of this one, I said, "You, what do you want to talk about?" Like 3 minutes before I click record. What do you want to talk about? Because you never know what's going to come out, and those are the best conversations to have, Kristen. They really are, because then it's your
Yeah.
true authentic self. It's nothing scripted. It's nothing, because that's where the best, I don't know, truth comes out. I wasn't planning on telling you about my haunted house that we owned, so I don't
Yeah,
know. I think that it promotes authenticity when nothing's scripted. So
it does. I think that's what draws people in. They need that in their lives.
mhm, absolutely.
Authenticity. Yeah. And podcasting really does, it allows for that warmth and authenticity. It's almost like, we're having, I mean, it's Zoom, so it's not quite the same, but it's, if we both had a cup of coffee and we were just having an intimate chat at a coffee shop, it's just like that
With everyone watching.
with everybody watching. But you don't see that. You don't
No,
see that
no,
immediately.
exactly, exactly. Well, my dear, what else should we cover? What else do you want to chat about?
Well, I'd like to put a little plug out there for anybody listening who thinks they may have a story to tell,
Yes.
who wants an open platform to share their stories or experiences. I would love for them to reach out to me. I'm always looking for people to interview, to share their knowledge, to open up people's eyes and hearts to their experiences. I would love for that. And also, if you know people who are starting to become more awakened, or if you feel like you have an audience that might be right for the podcast, I invite you to listen and share, because I would love to grow. I would love to reach more people and serve as many people as I can.
So how do they get a hold of you?
They get a hold of me. So I have a few different channels. The way to watch or listen to the podcast is the YouTube channel. And the podcast is called Clarity to Consciousness, with the idea being that we're, providing clarity to the concepts and complexities of human consciousness. So you can find me at Clarity to Consciousness on YouTube, as well as Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, you can email me directly at Kristen, Kristen. I'm a 10, not a 10. And that's at claritytoconsciousness.com.
Nice, 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 nice. I hope that you're flooded with emails now.
I
Get
hope so
that calling out.
too.
I
I
hope
hope
so.
so too.
Because it's time we speak up. It is. It's time we share our stories, and so people know that they're not alone, and they're not going crazy. And that there are other sides to reality out there. So it's good. It's good to share our stories.
Yeah. And just average people, like what I call myself, just this average person who feels like they have a purpose. And even if you don't know exactly what that purpose is, I encourage everybody to keep at it, because your ideas of how to serve will eventually come to you when the time is right. It took me several years to figure out what my voice was, what my platform was going to be, who was I going to talk to, how was I going to help people. I knew there was something there, but I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And then one day, supposedly when I was ready, it came. And that was really just to connect to people out there and share the voices from the people who have helped me, as a way of giving back, and also learn and grow with everyone at the same time. I don't claim to know it all, but there's so much to be learned. There's so much to be learned, and I love learning with my audience.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, I thank you so much for sharing with mine today, and just going with the flow with
Oh
our.
my gosh. Like I said, the honor's mine. And I have to say, for anybody listening who's been listening to you for a while, I went from fan to what I'd like to say friend of Patricia's, and she really is the real deal. She has been nothing but kind and completely generous and so sweet, and offered to have me on her channel to help me grow just out of the goodness of her heart. and she really is the real deal. So I just have to give you a shout out because you've been so amazing to me, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. And I love hearing feedback. That honestly, that means the world to me because like I said, I try to be as authentic and, me as I possibly can. And so thank you for
You
uh,
are.
thank you so much. I really
You are.
appreciate that. Totally. And thank you so much for everybody watching here today. I really encourage you to go and subscribe, like and subscribe to Clarity to Consciousness. Let's grow her channel. Get her voice out there, you guys. This is how we grow, right? We become a community. And thank you for reaching out to me. Thank you for reaching out to me, and having me on your channel. It really was an honor, because I was the first person on the channel,
You are.
and I'm sorry
You
that you
are.
got a bad feedback. That's
Oh,
obviously
it was just one
been
person. That was bound to happen regardless of who, I think he just
interesting.
had something to say, and whoever it was, he was going to say it. He also talked about my logo being like promoting pedophilia and stuff, which is completely not true. A triangle, the purpose of my triangle is to signify, the arrow is pointed upwards to signify, the a peak of consciousness. There's a little space that's open to signify allowing new information to come in and being open to change. And that's why I picked the triangle for clarity to consciousness.
Wow.
So just to be clear, it is
Oh my
it
God.
is all good intentions behind that logo.
Wow. Yeah, people and their symbols. I didn't even think of that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all people's perceptions, right? And all
Hmm.
we can do is try to enlighten, people's
Yeah.
perceptions, and hopefully they're going to take what they are brought to learn from us, and teach us in the process as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Well, I thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on today. And thank you for allowing me to go all over the place and talk about my ghost stories and my parents and, see wherever it went. I think it's fun when we get a chance to do that. Yeah, like I said, definitely like and subscribe, Clarity to Consciousness. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to my channel, please do so. So it helps the algorithm and it helps get the message out there. And if, oh, I wanted to mention this too before we go, because I've just announced my September 15th to the 20th, 2024 Psychic Awareness Retreat in Sedona, Arizona. Now there's only 19 spots because I like to keep it nice and quaint. Like we hang out in our pajamas around the fire at night and stuff. Like it's so much fun. It is the best week. I try to make it into a bucket list trip of a lifetime. So if you are called to meditate in the vortexes with me and do activations around the fire, and oh my God, it's so much fun. Every day is a different excursion. I teach in the morning. We do excursions all afternoon, have amazing meals, which are all included. Everything's included. And then sit around the fire at night and tell stories and activate and meditations. And it's just a lot of fun. So, anyways, if you guys are interested in that, it's on my website, www.patriciamona.com. And Kristen, what's your website again?
It's reach me at Kristen at claritytoconsciousness.com, and you can find me at claritytoconsciousness.com. It's on Substack, so it's a Substack website, which is it's a writing website. So hopefully everybody can find me okay. But you should be able to find the website, or I'm sorry, the podcast on Apple and Spotify and YouTube, and probably most of the other podcast platforms. I'm available there too.
Nice, nice.
Thank
I
you.
have to
And
tell
that Sedona trip sounds awesome. I'm probably gonna take one of those spots because I've been wanting to go with you for a long time.
I had
I
in
missed the
person.
last
It's
one.
amazing. It really was.
I should be the
I
first
tell you,
one to
it is
sign up.
the girls' week of a lifetime. Like it is We even have a shopping day in there where we go into Sedona and do all the little cute little shops and everything in there. And oh my God, the whole place is spiritual, right? The whole place.
Mhm.
And you can feel the energy from about 5 kilometers when you're driving into it because your whole body tingles. Yeah. Anyways, we'll chat about that when I
All right,
when
let's do
I click
it.
off. So thank you guys, everybody, so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. God bless. Take care.
Bye.